everybody, welcome to Happy Hour. My name's Dory and this is my friend Alex. Today we're going to be discussing rosé wine.
Yes, I love to hear that, Dory.
Yes.
Thank you so much for bringing some rosés to the table today. Rosé season is upon us and I couldn't be happier.
Me neither. Sunshine, warm weather, no snow, beaches.
Oh, long days. I love it. And nothing says summer like rosé, even though rosés are delicious year-round.
Yes, they are. And you have more and more rosés available all the time.
Very true. Speaking of rosés, there's lots of different ways to make rosés, which gives you lots of different flavor profiles and styles. So we figured today we're going to bring you 4 different rosés from around the world. All of them made a little bit differently, definitely using some different varietals and from different countries. So you have different weathers, climates, soil types, and all of those influences to give you some beautiful rosés.
Let's get started. I need to have a glass right now.
That's enough talking. Let's start.
It seems
sipping.
appropriate that we start with our first wine, which is Chateau Peyresol. This wine is from Provence, France, which is the quintessential rosé wine region. It's one of the very few wine regions in the world where rosé is more produced than red and white wine. So this particular wine is a blend of Grenache, Syrah, Cinsault, Mourvedre, and Rolle, which is actually a white grape. The rest of the grapes are dark, deep red grapes, which are well suited to the Mediterranean climate because they like heat, they like dry weather, they like all those things, and so do I. And I could picture myself on the Mediterranean when I'm sipping on this glass. What's really cool, cheers, yes, let's get started. So Chateau Peyresol is a very old winery. Their first harvest dates back to 1256.
Whoa.
And the original property was founded by the Knights Templar, and it was used as kind of a stopping point as Templar Knights were on their crusades to the Middle East. Now, this wine has been produced rosé style since then. Didn't really become popular until about the 1970s. And now Chateau Peyresol makes multiple labels from various different blends and different locations throughout their properties. So what they really do is they showcase the broad range that rosés can have. This particular one that we're tasting today is the Reserve de Templier, and it definitely has, well, what do you think, Alex?
Well,
Getting a little...
first of all, this makes me really happy, really happy to smell
Yes.
it and to taste it.
Sunshine.
Sunshine in a glass. This is beautiful wine. I love the texture. I love the weight. It gives you a lot right up front without feeling too heavy on the palate. It's refreshing and something that I could definitely see myself drinking a lot of.
And one thing you get off rosés from Provence is this unique, like, herbaceousness. You get rosemary and thyme alongside the red berry fruit.
And I love that little aspect too. Some rosés, sometimes you just want nice, fruity, delicious wine, and there's plenty of rosés that give you that. And then there's other times that you want something with a little bit more depth, a little bit more nuance, and
more
then
complexity.
More complexity, exactly. And the herbaceous quality of this wine really sings. I love it, and it's pretty good with some seafood, I'm sure.
Yes, it is.
Don't want to dump that one out. Well, moving right along.
Yes, let's get started. Let's move on to Italy.
Excellent.
One of my favorite wine regions.
Ooh.
Countries in general.
Mine too. And here we are going just down the coast from Provence, moving east into Piedmont in Italy. We are working with Elvio Tintero Winery. And as you can maybe see in that pour, there's a little bit of spritz to this wine, which makes it really special
refreshing.
to me.
Yes.
Very refreshing. Elvio Tintero as a winery has been around since 1900. Pierre Tintero came down from Paris and said, I want to start a life in Italy. Where can I find some work? Ended up in Piedmont. Somebody pointed him over to the Tintero property where the Countess Cortese was recently widowed and needed some help. Long story short, she hired him, they fell in love, got married, and
Match made in heaven.
122 years later, here we are drinking their delicious wine. Piedmont is known for its red wines, most definitely, but it does have some really delicious white wines and rosés. This is made predominantly from Barbera. Barbera gives you plenty of bright fruit, a lot of acidity. That acidity gives you a really nice mouth-watering quality. And also, like I said, this has got a little bit of frizzante to it. So those bubbles really freshen it up and really make it something a little bit special. Something that you can definitely
Crush on a porch.
Crush on a porch, drink your fair share of all summer long.
There's this really nice floral characteristic to this wine that I'm really into. It's just very aromatic and very delicate on the palate. Really good acidity.
I love it.
Super refreshing.
Hey,
You definitely
Dorian.
get the spritz on the palate too.
Most definitely. And do you know how they get that spritz in there?
How, Alex?
Here, let me tell you. The Barbera is made just like regular wine, press, direct press, which in the rosé world means they take a barrel full of these grapes, Barbera being a red grape, and they slowly squeeze the grapes. As that juice trickles through all of the grapes and the grape skins, it picks up some color extraction from that process. That's why direct press wines, rosés, are usually really light in color because it's just the length of time that they spend in contact with the skins is nominal. But then you just have a regular base Barbera rosé. How do we get the spritz? They add a tiny little smidge of Moscato at the end that's unfermented. And with those natural sugars and a little bit addition of some native yeast, they put the cap on the bottle, and there's a slight secondary fermentation in this one, which when that CO2 has nowhere to go, it puts itself right in the bottle, and you get a frizzante wine.
The Moscato is definitely where I'm getting that aromatic. It's a very bold orange blossom. It's delicious.
Most definitely.
Delicious. All right. Let's move on to something a little bit deeper and a little bit darker. So now,
Look at that color.
Yeah. So this particular wine is from Portugal. It's from a region called the Douro. The Douro is mostly known for port production. So when you think port, you think very heavy, sweet, fortified wines, very big, very bold. And this is made from one of those very big and bold grapes, something that you wouldn't necessarily think of automatically when you think of rosé. And the grape is Touriga Nacional, which is a very big tannic grape. This does see a slight amount of skin contact, but because the grape is naturally so dark and so tannic, it's nominal how long they leave it to get this beautiful dark color. This particular producer is one of my favorites, Antonio and Joana Massanita. They're a dynamic brother-sister winemaking duo in Portugal. And not only do they make wines in the Douro, they make wines in regions all over Portugal. So the Massanita property, their whole goal is to kind of break with that tradition of doing just port fortified wines and making dry styles and rosés, if you can believe it, from Touriga Nacional. So I love this wine. It's just it's very round. It has a lot of big fruit, but it still stays very refreshing. And I think it's still light in a way. Like, it's obviously a little bit heavier than these two wines, but I think
it's still light on his feet, but there's a lot more power.
There's
in
a lot
this
more
wine,
power,
What
yeah.
I'm finding, just a nice depth of fruit. You can tell that it comes from a warmer region than these guys. You can tell by the color, but you're absolutely right. There's still a really deft touch to it, which gives it a nice freshness and an uplifting quality. I've had the pleasure of actually meeting Antonio and Joanna, and they are both wonderful, wonderful people. And Joanna is definitely a spark plug, full of energy, full of life, and just a go-get-'em attitude. She's a pretty amazing person.
if you ever find any of their wines from the Azores as well, I've had an opportunity to try those, and those wines are incredibly unique and very, very delicious. They do a rosé as well. So 2 awesome Portuguese rosés to look out for.
I've had that Azor wine. I haven't seen it in a while, so I think you and I might have to take a quick trip out to the Azores. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's move on.
Last but definitely not least, we're heading down under to Australia. The region more specifically is South Australia and the Adelaide Hills and also the Riverlands. Here we have a winery called Unico Zelo. They are the youngest of the bunch, I believe, in the sense that they were founded in 2014 by
they are the
Brendan and
youngest.
Laura Carter.
Yeah, close one. This one's 2011, so
Okay.
just like a little sister, big brother scenario.
Sure. So a really young winery started in 2014 by Brendan and Laura Carter, husband and wife team, fresh out of college, enology school. And they wanted to achieve a few things. Foremost, they really wanted to break the perception of Australian wines in most people's minds. Australian wines hit the market really big about 20 years ago
The animal
internationally.
wines.
Big, huge, bold, heavy hitters, and pretty much all reds as far as what we were getting. And it got to the point where the extraction just kind of threw a lot of people off of drinking Australian wines. We'll fast forward to 2014 and present, and you're getting beautiful wineries making wonderful wines that are delicate, that are light on their feet, and that are really showing their sense of place. They like to make what's called lo-fi wines. Basically really minimal intervention. It's just what the climate, what the soils, and what the grapes are giving you. They're not really messing with it too much after that. They also have a love for Italian varietals, which is really funny, and that puts them on the map as well as being really unique. So South Australian winemakers making wines from Italian varietals. Who would have thunk it? So here, what we're working with predominantly is Sangiovese, which is native to the Tuscany region of Italy. And we are also fleshing it out with a little bit of Pinot Gris. We had talked about this being a direct press method and some skin contact in this one. Here, you're getting a lot of the color also from skin contact from the Sangiovese and from the Pinot Gris. It gives it that beautiful copper tone, and I'm a huge fan of these wines. They are, to me, more in line with the Massanita in the sense that they're sun-kissed, they're giving you plenty of fruit, but they're just still really light on their feet and a pleasure to drink.
Yeah. This has a really nice, like, rich mouthfeel as well, same as the Massanita, yeah. So I think it's a pretty good comparison between the styles that are definitely a little bit more lighter embodied and a little bit, well, I guess you could call them cooler climate.
Sure.
Marginally cooler climates, and then some of the bigger ones that use some heavier red grapes.
They're all wonderful.
Yeah.
You can drink them all on their own. I would say any of them pair really well with food, and especially I feel these last ones here with their herbal qualities and their big, bold palates, they're going to hold up really nicely to chicken dishes, to salmon dishes, to just putting a straw in the bottle and sucking it down. It pairs
Now I'm
nicely with
thirsty
anything.
and hungry.
Sure. Well, that was wonderful.
Yeah, I think that concludes our rosé discussion for the day. Hopefully it was interesting, and just so everyone knows, rosés are made of all different things from all different places, and it's meant to be enjoyed all the time.
I agree. Cheers
Cheers.
for that. See you next time.